Signs brewing for a major storm during the first week of March, what it could bring and where in today's video. Welcome in everybody, great to see you on this Tuesday, and it has been a crazy 2025. In fact, it feels a little weird right now to not have a whole lot to talk about in the near term, but I am eyeing a time period around the start of next week for another big storm system that could bring winter weather and severe weather to parts of the country, and we'll break it down for you in today's video. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for the latest notifications, getting very close to 40,000. So if you'd like to join and maybe become number 40,000 on the subscriber list, definitely hit the button. And thank you to our channel members. Appreciate you folks for all you do. And if you want to become a channel member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button down below. Alrighty, folks, with that said, let's dive on into the data here and start talking weather. Now, next to me, this is the evening run, or I guess the overnight run from our European computer model showing that storm potential. And I'm going to keep using the word potential. Again, today's Tuesday. This would be about Tuesday of next week is when this storm would get, I guess, kind of to its more mature stages of its life cycle. So we've got time to go before it gets here. So we're going to continue to monitor it. Things are going to change. If there's anything we've learned so far this winter, things change a week out. And again, I cannot push that ideology enough into kind of through the screen into you. Things can and they will change with this storm system between now and a week from now when it is likely unfolding. But you can definitely see the potential for a big storm there on our European computer model, which generally is pretty reliable. Now, before we start talking in depth on that storm, I do want to mention what's happening out there right now. This is current satellite loop. A couple areas of note here, especially right off the coast of Florida. Check out this area of low pressure. This is a cutoff low that got kind of trapped down there yesterday. I brought a little bit of severe weather and some showers and storms, and bringing a whole lot of moisture here out over the Atlantic here, not far from the Gulf Stream. Again, crossing the Florida Peninsula currently, and is going to move up the East Coast. However, going to be just far enough offshore that we don't really feel the impacts of it. I'll tell you, if it was a little bit closer to the shoreline, this could be a big-time winter storm for portions of the Northeast. Just not quite going to do it here out of this one. Now, other than that, another storm system, this time out west. This one is going to cross the country and bring some impacts today and tomorrow, including some winter weather. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. I'll tell you how much snow you can expect out of this one. And then after that, eyes are going to turn to a couple other little systems before next week when the big one likely starts working on into the forecast. There we go. Nice Toyota ad. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. Not sponsored by Toyota, but this radar website is, I guess. So good on them. Looking at radar imagery, though, yeah, we've got some rain out there into portions of the Northeast here, into Michigan, back down towards Ohio, Pennsylvania, and then kind of more of a wintry mix up towards Toronto and into eventually Ottawa and Montreal throughout the day today. Just a little system today working through, going to bring mainly rain to the United States, a little bit of a wintry mess into portions of eastern Canada, and then out into the Pacific Northwest. Here's that storm system I just told you about, bringing some of that snow to the higher elevations of the Cascades, and eventually even out here towards the northern Rockies by later this afternoon. And if we zoom out even more, yeah, down near Florida, most of the rain done for now. Some rain hanging on near Jacksonville, there near Duval County, but most of the rain off the shoreline here and actually getting pretty close to Bermuda and raining pretty good in the Bahamas. Now, let's go ahead and time some of this out for you. And we'll start out west, and then we'll work eastbound. Here's our current west coast storm right now, bringing some of that snow up into the Cascades and then into the northern Rockies there. Rain, obviously, in the green, snow in the blue. You can see it there. Just a pretty snowy day. This is throughout the afternoon today. It's going to begin to accumulate pretty good there into northern Idaho, through western Montana, and then continuing into the mountains of Washington. This gets us to tomorrow morning. More of the same, but begins to dwindle down by tomorrow afternoon and evening. And then by the time we get to Thursday here, all clear, and this storm system is out of here for you folks out west, but not before dropping some snow. Let's take a look at some of those snowfall totals. Not a blockbuster storm, but definitely going to help some of those ski resorts out here into Idaho, Washington State, even back down into portions of Oregon and Montana. Just outside of Seattle, though, I could see another foot or two of snow on the way for some of these higher peaks. Would not surprise me by any means. And then probably about half a foot out here into the mountains of northern Idaho, and then closer to half a foot into the higher peaks of western Montana. So definitely some snow to come, even some light snow out here near Yellowstone. Can't rule out a couple of inches, but overall, kind of a quick hitting, not off the chart storm. Now, I will say we did have severe weather yesterday in Oregon. In fact, tornado warning, not something we see very often out there, but this storm, again, definitely a dynamic one and had plenty of wind shear with it. Less likely to see that today, I think, but Very interesting stuff there in the severe weather world. In fact, I'll also add this. We had a tornado yesterday in South Dakota, and you're probably wondering, Gerald, why did you not mention the threat of a tornado yesterday? Well, because it wasn't really there. The temperature was in the 40s, and we still got a tornado in South Dakota. So that's a sign of things to come for this tornado season. Kind of interesting to see those meteorological phenomena. Now the good news, this tornado in an open field didn't really hurt anybody, so we'll all be happy for that. But definitely already an interesting week so far in the weather department. Now let's look at the east here and time out the near term. This is this afternoon. Again, we've got that little disturbance up into the northeast. I could bring some rain from the Finger Lakes, even up into the Adirondacks, maybe snow at the highest peaks. But overall, dealing with kind of a warmer air mass currently than we have had recently, and that could even bring some snow, like I said, up into the St. Lawrence River Valley of Canada, I think pretty likely. And then you see this big storm off the east coast. Yeah, just a little too far for any fun action here. I will mention, though, as we go into overnight tonight, this is waking up tomorrow morning. Cold air is going to funnel in behind that storm system I just showed you, kind of moving through. I said would bring snow into Canada, and with that, some back-end lake effect, northwest flow type snow could get into the Adirondacks and just the interior northeast in general there through Vermont, New Hampshire, northern Maine. And then you notice another little system. This is the theme this week, these little tiny low-pressure systems, kind of Clipper-esque, just really weak surface lows, though, more than Clipper systems. And you can see that one tries to bring some snow. This is Wednesday morning into portions of Wisconsin, into portions of northern Michigan, and then it kind of gets further south, runs into warmer air, and it's more of a rain fest through the Ohio Valley. Just a quick line of showers, I think. This is overnight Wednesday into Thursday, and then kind of merges with some more upper level energy, and we get a bit of a more notable system. You can see this is Thursday morning. We've got some snow even as far south as Massachusetts and the Hudson Valley. And then this upper level energy behind it kind of swoops on, picks it up, and brings a shot of colder air into the northeast. By this point, this is Thursday. And then look at this northwest flow snow on the backside. This is Friday morning. We've got snow all the way back down into West Virginia, Pennsylvania, up into the interior of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Again, kind of those northwest flow areas that normally cash in. Well, same's happening here. This is Friday morning. And then behind it, check it out, another Clipper system showing up here by, this is Friday afternoon, into portions of the Great Lakes. So not a quiet pattern per se. We're just not seeing that big one right now, at least this week, that's going to impact a ton of people with dynamic weather. Now, I do want to pick up kind of on this little Clipper system. Let's start at the same time. This is the GFS. Moving ahead to where we left off Friday afternoon. Pretty similar to the NAM model I just showed you, and they run off kind of the same physics, so you would expect that. But definitely a pretty noteworthy Clipper, 993 millibar low. That's pretty feisty. We've got a good shield of snow to the north. I think this one could be a pretty moderately impactful storm system here into the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, maybe even the mitten of Michigan. At least the northern half of it here. And you can see that moves through. Again, gusty winds with this one, pretty heavy snowfall rates, quick hitting, so not a 12 to 24-hour storm, but a good 6-hour, 12-hour, or 6 to 8-hour, we'll say, kind of winter weather event here swings through, and then gets to the northeast, folks, and could bring some snow once more to the interior, maybe as far south as Boston, out towards Worcester, could get some sort of flakes out of it, probably not a big deal, but I do think the interior, the Finger Lakes, up into the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, areas like that would probably get more of a notable winter weather event out of this. Again, not end of the world snowfall, but a nice quick hitting little storm there before the weekend kind of tapers off and we start looking ahead towards next week. I will show you the European for the same storm system. A little weaker. Here it is. You're probably wondering, well, actually, let me move it ahead to where we actually are supposed to be. Here we go. So not necessarily weaker per se, but a little bit further north. So remember, the GFS had this shield of snow shifted south. The European further north. Therefore, we get less snow into the U.S. and more up into Canada. Again, this is a real possibility. We'll see which one ends up being right. But either way, it does still eventually get snow into the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, and kind of swings this through. And we get some northwest flow behind it. But another important thing is you see all these blue lines, folks? This is a shot of pretty cold air behind this thing. So going to start to feel a little bit more winter-like, I think, by the first day or two of March, by next Sunday. And then that will probably get transitioned out pretty quickly, we'll say, by early next week, as I would expect warm air to once again return to the forecast. And you'll see why in a second, but definitely noting that. And then we'll talk more about temperatures here later on in the video. Now, snowfall totals, this is kind of through those clipper systems. Let me see exactly where we're at here. Yeah, so this is for the Friday storm and kind of everything before it as well. The highest totals on our ensemble showing up here into Canada, north of Michigan and kind of north of Sault Ste. Marie here on the other side of Lake Huron, where we could see half a foot of snow. But even down into Marquette, into the UP, we're seeing pretty good ensemble means of, we'll say 3 to 6 inches of snow here. Same thing for the northern kind of mitten here, Gaylord, Rogers City, Alpena could see 2 to 4 inches out of this thing, I think. Wherever this thing is, wherever that kind of peak of that upper band of snowfall is probably going to get about half a foot. And you can see on this model, mainly up into Canada, but if that shifts south like the GFS show, then maybe even northern Wisconsin, the UP, and the northern thumb could get in on more of that snowy action. Just got a way to go to see exactly where the track ends up. And then, like I said, I think that transitions into the northeast, the interior. Adirondack's probably going to be the biggest winner, where we'll say around 4 inches of snow could be likely. Same thing here up towards Burlington, Swanton, Newport, and then up into portions of Berlin, New Hampshire, and Jackson, New Hampshire, Conway, New Hampshire. All these areas could see a couple of inches of snow, and then into northern Maine as well. Likely to see some flakes, fly out of this event. And that transitions us into next week. So like I said, this week, just these little disturbances, not a big deal. Some shots of cold air with them, and that's what you'll see here. This is Thursday afternoon. Remember, this map, blue areas are colder air masses. The warm colors on your map are the warmer air masses, shockingly enough. So those reds, those are ridges, areas of warmer air. The blue areas of cold air, or troughs as we call them in meteorology. Here we go Thursday, these little clippers, just kind of watch what happens. We've got this piece of the polar vortex just kind of stuck up here into eastern Canada. So very cold air to our north, and you see these little elongations of it. Yeah, these are little troughs that are kind of breaking off and swinging through the eastern U.S. So this week we are going to have nicer days. Today in Charlotte, where I'm at, it's going to be about 70. It's going to be beautiful. But notice, again, by Thursday afternoon, you see one little piece of cooler air swinging on through, definitely getting the northeast, probably even the northern mid-Atlantic, tries to scrape the southeast a little bit, and then another piece breaks off, and I think this one more potent by the weekend. This after that clipper system I told you about Friday and Saturday. I mean, this is a pretty good shot of cool air. So definitely a warmer pattern for most folks this week, but do not count out the Northeast and the Great Lakes and even portions of the Mid-Atlantic for pockets and shots of colder air by later this week. And then that sets the stage for Sunday afternoon here. Again, we've got this cold air kind of locked in the east. Don't get too excited if you're a cold weather fan, because behind it, a big ridge spiking and moving it towards the east. I think not going to be a super long-lived shot of cold air this weekend. And as that's happening, an area of troughing or low pressure out here now, towards California, that's a storm system trying to get going. And in front of it, with this big ridge, that tells me we're going to have a push of warm air in front of a storm system at the first week of March. So generally speaking, that's signs of a dynamic storm, meaning severe weather and winter weather. Now, is that exactly how this will play out? Again, about a week out, but climatologically speaking and looking at the ensembles, this would suggest a dynamic storm. Now, that could be a super strong dynamic storm, that could be a kind of weak dynamic storm, that could be kind of in the middle range around maybe 990 millibars or so. That's what we're going to figure out here. But notice that storm blossoms, pushes east, and by Tuesday, again, this is just a classic symbol or signal for some severe weather. Low pressure located probably somewhere in here, severe weather threat out in front of it, right through here, and then a snow threat on the northern side. So blue to the north, red to the south is probably what you're going to see on the thumbnail, and this is why, is this storm system by early next week. All right, so that's kind of the setup for it. Let's look at it through some models. Is this, how's this going to play out? Is it even going to happen? Is probably the million-dollar question many folks are wondering. Well, here's the GFS model for the storm. I think doing a generally all right job here at depicting what could happen. Here's our Friday, Saturday clipper. That's the one we talked about, just to give you an idea where we're at. There's that shot of cold air behind it. And then comes our storm. Pause it right around here. This is Sunday afternoon. Feisty storm, a little one, compact here with some rain and severe weather potentially in Oklahoma down towards Texas. Snow on the northern side there through Kansas, at least portions of Kansas on this run, as a bit of a deformation band gets going on the backside. And then that one kind of dies out and you're thinking, all right, Gerald, that's what you're hyping us up about? Well, not quite. That's kind of a precursor storm on the GFS. And then we get the bigger storm. Here we go. Takes a little bit of time to get going, but starts with snow. This is Tuesday morning and afternoon in Nebraska. Gets snow in Iowa. Starts to deepen. Gets some snow up into Michigan. Back towards Wisconsin. It starts to really deepen. This by Wednesday afternoon. We've got a nice little winter storm going on in the interior northeast. back through Michigan. On the backside, we've got snow in Chicago on this run. Not a super strong storm, around a little less than 1,000 millibars, so notable, but not a super storm of 93 or anything like that here. But it does get some coastal energy, phases a little bit here, and gets a nice little winter storm into the northeast, especially the interior. Starts good for the interior here by Wednesday, Thursday, and then transitions, even get some snow along the coast by Thursday afternoon in Boston, even back down towards New York City on that model run. Granted, at that point, you're nearly 10 days out, so anybody's guess. But one thing about the GFS, less so on the severe weather. It's got more of a winter weather event, I would say, compared to a severe weather event. We'll see. Again, if it's right, the European shows a different solution. Let's time it out for you. Here's the Friday clipper I mentioned. That kind of swings on through, brings some active weather, brings that shot of cold air into the east just in time for the weekend. I know, just when you want to be cold, right? Just when you finally have days off of work. Well, then on the European, here comes that second piece of energy. Again, has something Sunday, Monday out here in the plains, weaker than the GFS, and then doesn't really develop it like the GFS does. But both of them agree after that, the bigger storm comes, stronger, and a bigger deal on the European. This is Tuesday afternoon. This would be a feisty severe weather threat down into Dixie Alley on Tuesday. This would be a real kind of messy winter weather event to the north, and then kind of some flooding rain in between. The usual three zone threat with these big mid-latitude cyclones during the early spring and late winter. And you can see it here. It gets strong. I mean, we're down at 985 millibars. We've got a heavy deformation band of snow on the backside of this thing in portions of Wisconsin, Illinois, back towards Chicago even, up into portions of Michigan. This will bring severe weather potentially by Tuesday night into Wednesday through the Carolinas. And then just mainly rain from the northeast on this run, but then brings a shot of cold air behind it. And that's another thing I think to mention here with this one. All right, so those are the two main models. I will show you the Euro AI because it's done really well, and I like showing it. Remember, not all the green here is rain. Some of it's going to be snow, and I'll try to point out where that is. But generally speaking, this blue line, you see that 540 line, anything above that you see that's green is really going to more likely be snow on the model. So we'll move this ahead into time. Back it up a little bit. Yeah, so here's the start of next week. Here comes our big storm. You can see it already beginning right here. This is Tuesday morning. We've got a big one down into Texas, Oklahoma. Gets pretty strong. Here we go. This will be a big severe weather threat. Again, Tuesday, a little bit further west here, maybe more of a East Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas special with this setup again, this would be Tuesday evening on this model. But strong. We've got a pretty good storm. We've got a lot of rain likely, but then it gets going, it gets cranking, and then it transitions to winter weather and severe weather. We've got snow probably up here in that area back towards Chicago, and then severe weather back down into Dixie Alley and towards the Carolinas by Wednesday afternoon. Keep it going here, and it's just a big one that rides up the coast. Or not up the coast, but up the interior, I should say. Mainly rain for the I-95, some interior northeast snowfall, and it shows a big storm. So basically all of our main models showing something out of this thing, and I think that's something to definitely take away from this video is odds are pretty high. We're going to get a big storm early next week. Now what happens between now and then? We're going to get these little clipper systems, not a whole lot going on, but the start of next week is what we're really watching for active weather. Severe weather ingredients from the European ensembles. Watch it kind of explode here right there we go. This is into Monday and Tuesday of next week. We've got severe weather. This is Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, gets out towards the Gulf Coast, and then another little flare up by Wednesday, potentially into the Carolinas. Obviously, timing will affect this. If this thing slows down a little bit, then Wednesday will be a bigger deal in the Carolinas. If it speeds up, it'll be more of a nocturnal threat. We'll have less instability to work with. Also, how strong the storm is obviously matters. The track of it matters. Just a lot to figure out. But there are going to be ingredients for severe weather, I think, somewhere. Now, the magnitude of that severe weather is something we'll have to definitely figure out. What about snowfall? European ensembles here. Definitely some snow in the Rockies. Here's next Monday, Tuesday. Notice that snow blooming out here. And then you get a little bit of a snow signal into the northern plains. Not a huge signal, though, honestly, folks. And then the signal gets a little bit bigger into eastern Canada. And then eventually even into the interior northeast. You get a little bit of a northwest flow snow signal here by about 10 days from now. The GFS ensembles, pretty similar to that as well. Gets snow into the Rockies. And then a bigger signal for snow into Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa. The GFS a little bit more hyped about this, we'll say, and then kind of gets it again up into even Wisconsin. A good snow signal here on the GFS. Same thing for Michigan, eastern Canada, and then the interior northeast, back in probably northwest flow type snow, or even just kind of cold air chasing moisture setup could produce some snow in that area come later next week. Final thing to talk about, temperatures. pretty warm out there right now. These are today's temperatures. Again, this is an anomaly map, so anywhere you see 25 degrees, it's not 25 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It's 25 above normal. So if your average high is 32 in South Dakota today, you're probably going to be closer up to the 50s, maybe even flirting with 60 would not be shocking. So definitely a warmer day today for many out there. Then notice these little shots of blue into the east. Here's one of them by the weekend. Like I said, I think it's going to get a lot chillier by Saturday, Sunday, especially in the interior northeast. I mean, heck, we're talking nearly 30 degrees below average. Yeah, that's cold air, even for early March standards. Then, ahead of the storm next week, we get that warm up. Look at next Wednesday's highs, back to above average in the east, but behind the storm, likely another shot of cooler air by next weekend. So, a little bit of a roller coaster. We normally get that in the spring. This week, going to be kind of warm, and then cold during the weekend, then warm again next week, and then cold again by the end of next week. You kind of get what you pay for here this time of year as we get that changing of seasons. And I think early next week, and really next week in general, is going to be a great example of that. Alrighty, folks, that's all I've got for you on this Tuesday. Again, if you liked the video, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. With that said, y'all have a great one. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all next time.